Hey guys, it's Barrett with the Gimpy Camper. Welcome to this week's video. This week we are at Red Top Mountain State Park in Acworth, Georgia, just north of Atlanta. And you know, I gotta say I'm really impressed with this place. You can tell by looking around me, there's our rig back there. You know, this is camping in the woods essentially. That's hard to come by, especially near these big cities. A lot of RV parks, that kind of stuff. Even a lot of state park campgrounds are closer together than a lot of the sites here. So all in all, I'm pretty impressed. As far as Verizon cell service, we do have 3 bars most of the time here, 4G LTE. And so it's not been an issue, you know, keeping up with life. I know some people like to disconnect when they go camping, but we like to have a little bit of service, and that worked out well here. So like I say, we are pretty close to Atlanta, and I really like this place. I like it a lot better than the only other place that I've stayed to in close proximity to Atlanta, and that's Stone Mountain. You know, I've always liked Stone Mountain, but as far as the campground, I just wasn't that impressed. Number one, it's way expensive. It's like almost twice as much a night as this place. And they have you on top of each other, and they have the lake there. And you know my gripes about that. The lake's behind your camper at all the sites. Now, I'll tell you that this place does really good about keeping the sites in the woods, and a lot of them are spread out, and I'll tell you the better ones in a minute. But the ones that are by the lake, not that many of them are that great here either. But I think being in spots like this where you're offset and kind of out away from everybody, I think that it's just a plus for me, even if it's not by the lake. There is one drawback to coming here, one drawback, and that's the bridge. The bridge is pretty narrow coming in. It's not that far from the interstate. It's pretty close off the interstate. There's a couple of curvy, windy roads, and you know, the roads in the campground itself are pretty narrow and windy. If you stay at the first loop here, which I'll talk about in a minute, then the road's not that bad. But some of those roads back there are kind of iffy. But that bridge coming in, going across the lake, it's pretty narrow. It's got a 14-foot tall clearance though, so I think about any camper can get through there. But you gotta pucker up a little bit when you come through there with the camper. So what are some amenities of the campground here? Well, number one, they have a lot of hiking trails, and I've watched a few videos on some different ones, and they seem to be really nice. Now, we've had a decently rainy weekend here, so I hadn't got to get out and explore too much, but we did walk on the Lakeside Trail that's out behind the visitor center, and that was pretty nice. It's all paved, it's all ADA accessible. There's benches along through there. There's even some swings and like some activity centers for the kids to do. And it looks like they're revamping a little bit of that. They also have a lot of construction going on here down at the beach area. Not sure what they're doing there, but it looks like they're making some pretty good improvements. There are a lot of shelters here for like group shelters, pavilions, that kind of stuff. Most of them are down on the lake. Some of them are inside shelters, so there's walls and I'm assuming climate control, but a lot of them are right there by the lake. And you know, so if you're looking for somewhere to have an event, this isn't a bad place to be, especially since most of those group shelters are down right on the lake. As far as the allowable equipment that they have here, most of these pull-through sites and a lot of the back-end sites are really big, and they say they're 40 foot long, but you can tell just by looking at my site there. We got the truck here, the car's behind the camper's 29 feet, and I could fit another car behind her car. So the sites are pretty big. They do tell you that the maximum is 6 people in each site, as well as 2 tents or 1 camper and 1 tent, which I think's, you know, reasonable. As with most Georgia state parks, there is a gate coming into the campground that you have to have the key code to get in, and it had a little bit of short in it, so it gave me an issue once or twice where I had to keep entering it, and I thought it may be just me, but I saw one of the campground hosts had the issue too, so hopefully they'll get that all fixed. But they never caused any big issues. It was just having to enter it in 2 or 3 times. I think there's a short in a little circuit board. But on the way out, they have the little spike strips like you see at the airport, and those things, even though I've encountered them once before, they still give me palpitations driving across there. And you know, these are the kind, I think I got some video here where when you drive across it, the spikes lay down as long as you're going the correct way. And if you're going the opposite way, then it's not a good day. But me having brand new tires on the truck, going out of here on the first time and seeing that, I got really nervous. And it has been kind of a rainy weekend. I went down by the lake to do this video and it's so windy that I couldn't do it. So that's why I'm here. The lighting with all the trees and the sun barely coming up, and it's been raining for 2 days. It's not the best, but we're making do. I want to let you guys in on a little secret. That's the best site at this park, and that's site 28. So site 28 is the only site that's right beside the lake, overlooking the lake. It is some descent down to the lake, so it's not like you just walk out the door and go swimming, but the site is the only site that you're back in. It's not a pull-through site. You're back into it. It is a little bit uphill and it's around a little bit of a curve, but let me tell you, it's worth it. The only negatives to this site is, number one, that your neighbor's a little bit close. It is almost like a buddy site, so when you're backing up to that site, the other site splits off out of that same driveway. But you back up far enough where I don't think it's going to be an issue. Now, the other thing that I have to say that's negative about the site, there's really all the sites here, is the excessive use of railroad ties. I understand they're trying to keep the gravels in, but I've tripped over these things about 10 times since I've been here just in my spot. And so that site 28, there are some railroad ties that go basically right in the middle of the site, and you got to be careful for those. But besides that, that site looks like it's a wonderful site. There are some premium sites here and some standard sites. Now, the premium sites are set up in a couple of different ways. Number one, there's the loop here. And as soon as you come in through the gate, you hang a left. And I mean, as soon as you come in through the gate, you hang a left and you go into this loop here. And that's where you'll find sites 2 through 12. The site that I'm on is number 12. All of these sites are pretty good sites. I have the worst one because you can see I'm on the end, and looking through a video where somebody did a drive-by, I thought, that'd be a great site because you got all these woods right here to be your front yard. Well, there was an issue with that. As you can see, it's my backyard. And this is probably the closest site to another site because there's another camper right in front of me. You can see the black car there. That's the next site over. And so, you know, it didn't end up being one of my picks as far as the favorite, but that's why we come. That's why we come, and that's why we show you guys where to stay so you don't pick the worst sites. Now, that being said, it's still not a bad site. It's just the site that my front yard is on. Even to get in my outdoor kitchen, there's a little bit of an incline there, and so it's kind of a pain. But I'd rather do that than be right up against my neighbor at an RV park. I can tell you that right now. The only other site that I would really avoid in this first loop would be site 2, which is the handicap site. But the only reason I say that, that site's the only one that's paved all the way through. But on the road, there's a little bit of an incline when you go up on the site, and there's a lot of drag marks on the road right there. So I'd be careful if you did that, if you had a longer rig, because you might drag the bottom going in there. It's the only place I happen to notice those, actually. Some of the other premium sites, like 28 is considered a premium site. They're just kind of scattered in here and there. Now, the premium sites and the standard sites both have electricity, and they both have water for most of them. Or actually, all the premium sites do. Most of the campsites here do. Some do not have electricity and water. They're very far and few between, though. No sites at this park have sewer hookups, and that's not unusual for me. I don't search for sewer hookups before I go somewhere. A lot of people, that's important. They do have a nice dump station that's right beside the exit gate. It's right beside the host spot, oddly enough. I hate to have my host spot right next to the old pooper spot, but that's the price you pay sometimes, I guess. They also have a nice bathhouse here. The bathhouse, at least on the main loop here, is nice and clean. There's a women's side, a men's side, and then there's 2 private bathrooms. The 2 private bathrooms are really nice. And the 2 group bathrooms were decent, but those 2 private ones were great. As well as they have laundry in the bathhouse here. I know that that's an issue. A lot of places where you go, you need somewhere to do your laundry if you're not just a weekend warrior like me. They do have laundry machines here. They are coin operated. Okay, so back to the best sites. So I already told you that site 28 was the best site, my pick of the park. And then we're gonna go to this main loop up here. I told you that I would avoid 2 and 12 in this first loop of the premium sites. But besides that, they're all pretty nice. The ones that seem to have the most room would be 10, 11, and 6 are the ones that I wrote down. But they're all pretty nice right here in this first loop. So anywhere from 3 to 11, I think you won't be disappointed. Now, what are some other good sites around here? Well, I would say site 23, 18, 82, 17. Now with 17, there's a small dip in the middle, I noticed, with this guy that's parked here. And so that's why he chose to park in the middle, because if you backed all the way up, it might be a little bit nose down, hard to level. But it's a pretty spacious site. Also, site 15 is a large private site. There is a tree right in the middle of it, but it's a good angle to back in. I don't think that tree is going to block anything. I don't even think it's going to block your awning. I think that all in all, it's not too bad of a site. So then there's sites 31 and 32. 31 and 32 are right on the lake. I think it says that they're 40 foot long on the paper, but the issue with those is, again, they face the wrong way, but they're pretty private. They're not as big of a site as far as, you know, yard space, because they're right there on the lake, and so there's a decent descent going down to the lake and nothing's really level there, but the parking pad itself's not bad. And then 36, 70, and 68. Now there are quite a few sites that I would avoid here, and so I'm going to let you in on the ones that I would avoid, and those would be 24 through 27. They're kind of right on the lake, but mostly unlevel, and the lake's behind the camper again, and I just wouldn't really do that if I was you. Site 14 curves off pretty steeply there. I think that'd be hard to back a trailer into. It looks like site 13 was originally a pull-through, which I would also avoid, because you have to back up and around a curve through some trees, because only half of that pull-through is open. There's rocks blocking the entrance from site 14, which, like I say, goes off of that in a pretty harsh curve. I'd also avoid 16. And 29 or 30 are small, short buddy sites that I wouldn't really stay in if it was me. Sites 33 and 34 are super small parking pads. I don't think you could fit anything much more than a teardrop in there. They do have a tent area that's separated from the parking pad though. Sites 87 to 89, I would stay away from, because they're pretty close together, kind of like an RV park. But there is a playground close by there. It's not a huge playground, but there's a playground near there if that's what you're interested in. And then I would avoid the whole loop between 71 and 80. I have you some footage here between 71 and 80. In that road, if you have anything more than a truck camper, I don't think you can fit through there. There's way tight turns, and not only tight turns, is a lot of those areas when you go to back in and pull in with your camper or whatever, the angle's not good. You're not going to be able to make it back in a trailer in there. So I wouldn't even take a trailer in there. And then sites 90 through 92 is the same kind of deal. You know, they're back on a really tiny loop, and they're very short sites, and they're all tight, and I would just avoid that. Okay guys, so that's my take on Red Top Mountain State Park. It is a nice park. There are a couple of recreation.gov sites here on Lake Allatoona that I want to check out eventually. You know, unfortunately they're closed in the wintertime, but I would like, you know, chance to swim and hang out in the lake a little bit. So we might try to head down here this summer and check one of those out. So till next time, we'll see you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for subscribing and hitting that like button.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.